こんにちは、ハリケーンフットボールです。本日の教材はリバプールの遠藤航に関する動画です。リバプールはプレミアリーグ第19節でウエストハムと対戦し、5対0で完勝しました。遠藤航は4対0になった後、後半60分から途中出場し、素晴らしいプレーもいくつも見せてくれました。今回の動画はザ・レッドメン TV2 から、試合直後のマッチリアクション動画です。リバプールの中盤が全員についていかに素晴らしいのかと話す中で、この中では序列が低くなっても仕方ないとも感じるような話ですが、遠藤航の素晴らしさについても結構な熱量で話しています。遠藤航についてどう感じているのか、何に驚かされ続けているのか、チェックしてみましょ
う。Okay, Ryan Gravenberch, so, gets an assist. Managed to get subbed with some comfortable time left on the game as well.
Protected from getting a yellow card.
Yes, 6.8 rating from SofaScore. Who Scored have got him as a 7.2 and FOTMob gave him a 7.6. So rising on the old graph there. I thought he was great again. And actually, I think intrinsically linked to McAllister's performance, which we'll come on to, but I just thought it was one of Gravenberch's freest midfield performances.
It definitely felt like that to me. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the average positions now, and McAllister are actually deeper than Gravenberch.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what, should we do the midfield almost as a unit here? Because I thought McAllister was outstanding. I thought Gravenberch, I thought Jones was outstanding, but let's start with Gravenberch because I think the performances were so linked because it was such a wonderfully fluid midfield performance.
Yeah, and I think it was the key to the whole game, to be honest with you. I remember thinking at the time when we were watching it that we're dominating the middle of the park. And we're having our way with West Ham there, and we're playing through the middle of the park. So we're getting to the edge of the penalty area, and then we're deciding which way to go. And I think if you can do that in the simplest of terms, the defence doesn't know which side to squeeze. Yeah. You go down the left-hand side, they compact it all over to their right to cut you off, and then they have to spread the other way. But if you can go through the centre, you've got two choices, and the defence is stuck in the middle, which means there's more space on the wide areas. And I thought Liverpool did that really well today, and it was that passing from defence into midfield to the other midfielder, and then maybe further forwards and stuff and going from there. But the fluidity between Gravenberch and McAllister and Jones was excellent, because McAllister was deep sometimes. Gravenberch, as you say, was freer to go forwards, and I say McAllister's the deepest of those players. Now when Gravenberch is withdrawn, McAllister goes further up because Endo's on as well. Yeah. And yet he's still the deepest over the 90 minutes in the average positions, which says something's changed. And this might be, version 1.2 of Slot's Liverpool. Yeah. Like now the midfielders are allowed, because they understand the positions, to change and to rotate, because they've played enough games together to understand each other's positions.
It's really interesting because Gravenberch only plays 57 minutes in this year. We get to 93% pass accuracy. It's 27 of 29 passes, so it's it's solid, really, really, really solid. But actually, as far as the heat maps go, he has a greater involvement on the right-hand side for Liverpool, high and wide on the right, because in that first half, when we were really turning the screw, McAllister, you're right, was able to sit. McAllister started really advanced, and I think they went, actually, this is a game where Gravenberch's pace is going to help us a little bit more. So McAllister switched, dropped deeper, and it allowed Gravenberch to go and get up and support it. The amount of times he just picked the ball up and he was linking with Salah, linking with Trent, linking with Curtis, high and wide on the right. And that's not something we've really seen since probably United away. And maybe there's a little part of this where, United are going to be tactically set up differently, but you might start to see that a bit more now that you talk about this, but now we've got a clear idea of what our opponents are all going to start to look like. You might see a further evolution of what we're doing in midfield. So I was really pleased with Grav, and again, so pleasing that he doesn't have to play another full 90, because with Szoboszlai not available to play through suspension, and then Curtis played more minutes than I think was planned for him to play. So we're actually managing to keep things ticking over. Let's move on to Alexis, because for me, I thought he was man of the match. Yeah. And any game where Mohamed Salah gets a goal and 2 assists and you give him man of the match, sometimes you can do a non-Salah man of the match. I think he was as worthy a contender regardless of how good Salah was tonight.
No, he ran the show for me from the middle of the park. And, it was Every time we run the ball back, it was like, fucking hell, McAllister again. Every time we played a brilliant through ball, it was McAllister, and his passes just made sense today. They were everything they needed to be, but they were played. The pace was perfect. The angles were perfect. It was going to the perfect foot. Everything just seemed to be like, this is McAllister. You get those sort of coming of age games, don't you? Now, McAllister had plenty of them last season when he was playing different positions. I don't think this season he's really had that game yet where he's been able to showcase, oh, I understand my role and I understand what I can be for this side. That felt like it today.
Yeah, I think that's really true, because I think he had the opportunity when he's playing the lone six last season. He's an island, and you're watching him quite intently for what he's doing, and you know what that role's meant to look like, because you've just watched years of Fabinho be one of the best in the world at doing it, and he falls a little bit short at times, but you give him credit for the work rate and all that. But like, he was getting caught out. He started to get caught out at times. Then when he's free to play further up the pitch, well, he can do all the eye-catching stuff because he's scoring goals then for us, and he's got, a couple of absolute worldies in his locker last season, so they're much more measurable. You're right. I think I've been underwhelmed by McAllister this year. I don't think he's been bad. I just don't think he's looked.
He's been functional. He's just been functional. This is different.
And this was, you're right, I had not really thought of it until you said it, but every pass he played, it felt like he knew where everyone was supposed to be. So he was able to fire it in much more quickly. I think, he needed to dwell on the ball far less, but actually his anticipation in his defensive work as well was great. West Ham couldn't get out because he knew where their passes were going to be. He was strong in the tackles. He put it all together. Basically, it was lacking a 25-yard screamer from being the complete midfield performance, but that doesn't take anything away from it, because you're right, I totally agree. Ran the show is the best way to describe it. Statistically, 90% passing accuracy, 56 of 62, 3 out of 3 successful long balls as well, created one big chance, 1 or 2 dribbles success, 7 of 12 ground duels, 1 interception, 4 tackles.
What are the big things I've been looking at moving forwards, especially thinking about the January transfer window, and done deep dives with Josh, and we've spoken about it quite regularly, is like, do we have that guy who's going to tell the team where we're going to play football, how we're going to attack? Do we, like the Zubimendi thing, the links, obviously, you think about that. Can Gravenberch be utilised further forwards? Yeah, I think he could be, absolutely. And I think he'd have more impact on the game, Gravenberch, for moving forwards, for having someone who's going to sit there and dictate. But if you can get McAllister to dictate like he did today from the position he's playing, then you might not need that, because it felt like the whole team goes, get the ball to McAllister, and he then looks at it like Thiago used to for us when he was at his best, and go, right, we're playing to the right, we're playing to the left-hand side, and he just pulled the strings from the middle of the park, and that brings Curtis Jones into the game. I think it's telling that, we get a brilliant midfield performance off the back of another brilliant midfield performance midweek against Leicester. Yeah, with the same players.
Yeah, definitely. Just before we go on to Curtis, just McAllister's numbers then: 8.1 from SofaScore, 8.2 from Who Scored, and 8.4 from FOTMob, and it's one of them. An assist or a goal boosts them dramatically. But he doesn't get those things, but it doesn't mean that it's any less of a brilliant performance from him. Curtis Jones, I thought he was really, really good, and it was another game where he was allowed to do the attacking stuff. He played it like Szoboszlai's been playing it, in that he was running forwards, making a 3 or 4 in the attacking areas, always being a willing runner. The amount of times that he did that little running beyond, and Salah would pick him out, or McAllister would be around the edge and looking for those runs. Yeah, really good.
He wasn't getting the ball, and he was in those positions as well.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, we know what Dom brings to the side now. We've seen it. But what Jones is bringing to the side right now is the goals and assists that Slot asked for.
Yes.
Now, he's not necessarily played the 10 every single week for us, but that is now 2 assists and 3 goals this season in the Premier League for Curtis Jones, which is much more like the level that you'd want from someone playing that position regularly, isn't it? And he seems to have an understanding of where he fits in as well. And again, I think it really helped him having Diaz up top, vacating that space and just giving you know, Jones some space to run into. Again, I go back, if you look at the average positions, rightfully so and understandably so, Diaz is very close to Gakpo over to that left-hand side. What does that do? That frees up space for Curtis Jones. Who else does it free up space for, Paul? Mo Salah on the right-hand side. And they know that those two together are going to go over there naturally, and somebody else has got to be. It can't just be Mo. You need to have someone else, and Jones is filling that void as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, really, really good from Curtis. I agree with that. You know, Szoboszlai's found a little bit of form, and then he goes out, and then Curtis gets a chance to come in and, you know, goal and assist. Now is it the last two games? So the numbers matter. You know, that's the barrier for entry into that Liverpool attacking midfield slot is that you've got to have tangible output. So yeah, really, really.
And he's helping with the press in that 4-2-4 press as well, because he's up there alongside Diaz.
7.5 from SofaScore for Kurt, who scored as an 8.1
and a 7.8 from Fatmod.
Yeah. So really, really good, really, really good from Curtis in the 74 minutes. And just a little mention, an honourable mention for Wataru Endo, who, keep coming back to it, he's quite clearly not. You know, he's not going to play for Liverpool next season, I don't think. You know, I think if Liverpool get an offer for him in the summer, he will be one that gets moved on. We might well look at that in January. But I think he tells you how good our squad is. Because, yeah, he's not the silky player that those other lads we've mentioned. Those are the four that we've got are supremely talented. I really like Endo, and this was another really good performance for him where he actually got to be a bit more of the role that he was bought for. Sits in, breaks things up, he's physical, moves on, a couple of nice little drops to the shoulder to carry it forward as well. Yeah, you know, can you improve upon Wataru Endo? Probably, but yeah, you're gonna have to buy. That's the level. If he stays around with us for the rest of the season, he will be a very useful player in that kind of form.
Yeah, I wouldn't be moving him on, not unless you're signing a backup centre half.
Yeah,
absolutely not. I mean, for a start, I think you need a midfielder to replace him. But if you don't sign a centre half as well, then like if it's just Kwanzaa on the bench next week, who's next?
Yeah,
it's Endo probably. We saw it the other week where he played centre back. So I think he's a really integral part of the squad. I think he's surprisingly good on the ball. And you know, I've seen him for 18 months now, and he's still surprising me every time he picks up the ball. Because he's pigeonholed in the press and the media as just the fucking destroyer. He is actually more than that. Like I think he's probably surprised Slot as well.
You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of more like peak Momo Sissoko in that I don't actually think he is necessarily a traditional anchor man. He's just a ball winner. So he'll go and win the ball whenever you want him to. It's just that thing of like, he's not... Again,
you don't need to keep him on a leash. He's happy to go off the leash and win the ball.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so honourable mention to the midfield. I thought it was a wonderfully rounded midfield performance. I think, you know, we've seen what's great, I think, over the last month. I think I've probably sat here and said that was the best performance this season from... I've said it from Szoboszlai, I've said it from McAllister, I've said it from Jones, and I've said it from Gravenberch, like literally every week that he's played for us. And that, particularly for Szoboszlai and McAllister, that is very, very encouraging, because this is the time of season when, we're really going to need to go up that gear, and the way the performance is great. So I think McAllister is a strong candidate for man of the match, but if you agree or disagree, let us know in the comments on that one.
次は解説です。スカウス英語が相変わらず難しいですね。それでも独特なリズム感や、そのリスニングの難しさが少し癖になってこないでしょうか。それが癖になってきたら、相当聞き込んだ証拠でしょうし。さらにどんどんスカウス英語にはまっていくかもしれません。今回は便利な表現が結構多く、解説もボリュームがありますので。早速チェックしていきましょう。
So, rising on the old graph there.
Rising on the old graph は比喩的な表現で、過去のデータや傾向を土台に、現在の状況が上向いていることを示す言葉です。ポジティブな文脈では、過去の成功や良い流れを受け継いでいることを意味し、皮肉を込めて使われる場合は、過去の栄光に頼りすぎている、または現在の状況がそれに似合わないことを暗示する場合もあります。この表現は、話し手が過去と現在をどう評価しているかでニュアンスが変わる点が特徴的です。
So, rising on the old graph there. Rising on the old graph there. And actually, I think intrinsically linked to McAllister's performance.
イントリンシカリとは本質的にや内在的にという意味を持つ英単語で、ある物事が外的な要因ではなく、その本来の性質や特徴に基づいていることを表し、物事の根本的な意味や価値を強調したいときに非常に効果的で。
And actually, I think intrinsically linked to McAllister's performance. And actually, I think intrinsically linked to McAllister's performance because in that first half when we were really turning the screw.
ターンザスクルーはプレッシャーを強めるや状況をさらに厳しくするという意味を持つ表現で、ネジを回す動作を比喩的に用いて誰かに圧力をかけたり物事をさらに追い込むことを指し、スポーツや日常会話で非常によく使われます。
Because in that first half when we were really turning the screw, because in that first half when we were really turning the screw, play so we're actually managing to keep things ticking over.
ティックオーバーはエンジンがアイドリング状態で動き続ける様子を表す表現ですが、比喩的に物事が最低限の状態で動き続けるや穏やかに進行するという意味でも使われ、静かで安定した進行をイメージさせる言葉です。
Play so we're actually managing to keep things ticking over. Play so we're actually managing to keep things ticking over.
No, he ran the show for me from the middle of the park.
ランザショーは指揮を取る、仕切るといった意味を持つイディオムで、例えば彼がチームを仕切っているといった文脈で使われます。この表現はリーダーシップや責任感を持つ人物を指す際に非常に便利です。
No, he ran the show for me from the middle of the park. No, he ran the show for me from the middle of the park. You get those sort of coming of age games, don't you?
カミングオブエイジは成長や成熟を意味する表現で、例えば若者が大人としての責任を学ぶ瞬間や組織やプロジェクトが本格的な段階に進む時期を表します。また、文学や映画のジャンルとしてもよく使われ、若者の成長や大人への旅路を描いた物語を指し、変化や成長を強調したい場面で非常に便利です。
You get those sort of coming of age games, don't you? You get those sort of coming of age games, don't you?
Well, you can do all the eye-catching stuff.
アイキャッチングは目を引く、印象的なという意味を持つ形容詞で特に人の視線や注目を集めるものを表します。例えば、目を引く広告や印象的なパフォーマンスのように視覚的な魅力や存在感を強調したい場面でよく使われ、デザイン、ファッション、広告など幅広い分野で活用される便利な言葉です。
Well, you can do all the eye-catching stuff. Well, you can do all the eye-catching stuff. He needed to dwell on the ball far less.
ドゥエルオンは長々と考えるやこだわるという意味の駆動詞で、特に過去の失敗や嫌な出来事について悩み続ける状況を表す際に使われ、注意を過度に向けすぎる状態を表現するのに適しています。
He needed to dwell on the ball far less. He needed to dwell on the ball far less.
And he just pulled the strings from the middle of the park. And...
Yeah.
プルザストリングスは裏で操る、影で支配するという意味を持つ慣用表現で、操り人形の糸を引く動作に由来し、表には出ずに影で重要な決定を下したり、状況をコントロールする様子を指し、権力や影響力のある人を表現するのに非常に便利です。
And he just pulled the strings from the middle of the park, and he just pulled the strings from the middle of the park, and vacating that space.
バケートは開ける、立ち退く、辞任するという意味を持つ動詞で、例えば入居者が部屋を開けるや CEO の職を辞任するといった文脈で使用されます。法律の文脈では無効にするという意味で使われることもあり、フォーマルな場面や正式な書類でよく見られる表現です。
Vacating that space. Vacating that space.
You've got to have tangible output.
タンジブルは触れることができる、具体的な、明確なという意味を持つ形容詞で、例えば具体的な成果や手に取るように感じられる興奮のように、物理的または抽象的に明確さを表現する際に使われ、ビジネスや日常会話など幅広い場面で利用される便利な言葉です。
You've got to have tangible output. You've got to have tangible output.
I think he's a really integral part of the squad.
インテグラルは不可欠な、 欠かせないという意味を持つ形容詞で。例えば、チームワークは成功に不可欠である。や、この部品は全体の一部として組み込まれているといった文脈で使われ、数学では積分を指す専門用語としても使用されます。全体を成り立たせる重要な要素を表現する際に便利です。
I think he's a really integral part of the squad. I think he's a really integral part of the squad. Because he's pigeonholed in the press and the media as
ピジオンホールは名詞としては仕分けだな。や、鳩の巣箱を指し。動詞としては固定観念に当てはめる。や、型にはめるという意味で使われます。特定のカテゴリーに押し込められることの不自由さや、柔軟な考え方の重要性を表現する際に便利です。
Because he's pigeonholed in the press and the media. Because he's pigeonholed in the press and the media as happy to go off the leash and win the ball.
リーシュはリードやつなぐ紐を意味する名詞で、動詞としてはリードでつなぐや制約するという意味で使われ比喩的な表現でもよく使われます。物理的な管理だけでなく、社会的心理的な制約を表現する際にも非常に便利です。
Happy to go off the leash and win the ball. Happy to go off the leash and win the ball.
いかがでしたか？遠藤航に毎回驚かされているのは、正直私を含めた日本人もそうなのではないでしょうか。遠藤航が序列を上げるのが、かなり難しいのは、現時点で世界一のチームと言って良いリバプールで、今のスカットとその調子を見れば、仕方がないとしか言えないでしょう。それでもオンザボールのプレーが、短いパスだけでなく、サイドチェンジや縦につけるスルーパス。後方からのパスにターンを入れて前に持ち運ぶプレーも、スロットに求められるプレーを実践し、しかもやってのけていることが、もともとできたのにやっていなかったのか、求められるようになったので、やれるように練習したのか、いずれにしてもそれができないものとさえ思われていた先入観もあり、それをやりこなす遠藤航に、実際に驚きを感じるのは仕方がないでしょう。遠藤航としても得意だとは思っていなかったと思いますので、ある程度トレーニングの中で弱点を克服し、できるようになったものだとも思いますし、30歳を超えてできないことを克服したりできるようになったり、そのための努力をし続けることが、さらに遠藤航の価値を高めるものだと思います。リバプールファンも遠藤が試合に出れば毎回のように驚き称賛しているようにも感じられますので、引き続き2025年も期待して応援したいと思います。本日もご視聴いただきありがとうございました。またすぐにお会いしましょう。